going on, everybody? This is Dr. Theo Williams.
Hey, how we doing out there? This is Hollis Edwards. And I am so excited. Well, at least I hope you guys are excited as we are because this is our actual first podcast. Many of you have seen our promos and many of you have seen the intros and a lot of you have been contacting us. When are you guys going to come out with this podcast? When are you going to come out with this podcast? Well, today is the day. So we are excited. Just to kind of give you, for those of you that didn't get a chance to see our promos, our podcast will be about Theo and I just talking about our past and speaking to the fact that basketball has allowed us to gain a lot of different skills and utilizing those same skills to go into every other part of our life, that same discipline, that same work ethic. And it's really, there's a lot of parallels there. And so we're just excited to share it with you. And then also, most importantly, we want to give God glory. And we want to talk about the importance of having Christ-centered lives. And even how the parallels in basketball even helped us grow in God and utilize similar things. So we're just really excited, and you guys will get a little bit of an open access view of some of our conversations, and we're going to have a lot of different guests on, and we're just going to have a lot of fun and just also, but at the end of the day, we're going to be giving God glory. So we're just excited that today is our first podcast, and we're excited to have you tuning in.
So I just wanted to share briefly about this first episode. We're going to release 3 episodes back to back to back. The first episode is going to be entitled The Backstory. It's just Hollis and I just going down memory lane of how we first met in high school, became high school teammates, and how we grew from there. And then episode 2 is going to be called Pass the Rock, where we're going to talk about how we got reintroduced to ourselves, each other, in terms of our faith. And then finally, we're going to have an episode entitled Ballers to Ballin'. Talking about how we went from playing ball on the court to balling in life.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get things started with episode 1, which is strictly the backstory of how Hollis and I first met in high school. So I'm going to have Hollis set us off because, to keep it real, he knew about me before I knew about him. So Hollis, why don't you go and tell the people, I'm just keeping it real. Tell the people about that story in terms of when you first started hearing about me and when we first actually met and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so it sounds a lot better than probably what it is. You know, I knew about him before he knew about me. But we'll go with it though, because it is factual. So I remember, so his sister is actually in the same grade I was in, and was a friend of mine. And so I remember it very vividly. We were walking through leaving the gymnasium area, kind of where they had a swimming pool at our old high school. And I don't know, we were walking in the halls, and I don't know what prompted this conversation, but she started telling me about Junior. And she started telling me about, oh, Hollis, wait till Junior get up here. Wait till Junior get up here. He's going to be doing this and that, and he's going to be able to help y'all right away, and this and this. And I'm sitting up here thinking, I haven't heard of any Junior, and he's in junior high, and you think he's going to come, and we're ranked in the state, and you think he's going to come here and make an impact right away? And so, in a weird way, that was my first introduction to my partner Theo, because obviously his sister was referring to him, and by his nickname Junior, what his family called him, and so he was kind of a big deal in junior high. I don't think he grew anymore from 8th grade, so he was already about 6'4", and so but it was a cool introduction, and it had me as a competitor. I'm thinking, okay, let's see how this young guy come up here. Let's see what he about when he gets up here. See if he can compete with the big boys. And but he did. He came up there and he did a good job. So that was kind of my introduction to Theo, informally, if you will, not indirectly, if you will, and definitely piqued my curiosity. And then from there, obviously I met him not so much when he was a freshman because he wasn't playing varsity at that particular time, but I was a junior at that time, so I'm older than him by 2 grades. So at that particular time, we're not really checking for any freshmen or anything like that. But definitely, definitely noticed him when his sophomore year came, because he got busy as a sophomore, and he was able to make the varsity, and not just make it, but he started a lot of the games, or if he didn't start, he was coming in, sixth or seventh man off the bench, and he was a very integral part on some of our successes that we'll get to later in this show. But that's kind of how Theo and I, and then I met him during obviously being on the team. We used to have a great time. We always had a chemistry with each other as far as a comedic chemistry, and he would, if y'all know Theo, he would do these dances in the locker room, and it would have, me and the other guys. I honestly thought even as a sophomore, he was the funniest dude on the team. I mean, it wasn't even a question to me who was the funniest guy on our team. And I always had, in all honesty, I always had a kind of a special place for him in my heart, because he was just kind of just a genuine guy, and very humble guy. He was confident in himself, but he was a very humble guy. And so I always just kind of had my eye on the little young sophomore at that particular time.
And what's crazy about that, Hollis, is when I think about our relationship, it's crazy that it had just dawned on me how little we hung out outside of basketball.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of that was attributed to the fact that I was a couple grades younger.
Yeah, you were a rookie.
And
I can't be hanging out with no rookies.
Yeah, even though I was still able to, in our city, we was able to get into, the 777 or whatever, the dances, and even later on having fake IDs. But for some reason, I was just like, man, we didn't really hang out a lot outside of basketball. One thing I do remember vividly, though, is always, it's funny you mentioned the dances and the telling the jokes. I've always been a funny dude, always been like the class clown.
Yeah.
But a lot of that in terms of the basketball was the fact that, trying to get in with you guys. Mm-hmm. I knew I could hold my own for the most part on the court.
Yeah.
But that was only part of it. In the locker room, you want to have that camaraderie. You want to be able to, what's your lane?
Yeah. And
part of my lane was whenever the new songs would come out, I pop in that tape. And I always had a dance for that new song. Even before they was having those songs where you had to do a certain dance.
Absolutely.
Just in there, just having fun. And I remember you and like Big Kill doing the dances, or Theo did that dance, whatever. And I had that little shaker dance I would do.
Never forgot. Never forgot. Unfortunately, I'm scarred from seeing that. I can't unsee that. I can't unsee it. It was great. It was you were a lot of fun.
I really look forward to that, in terms of, man, I fit in with these guys, and it's funny that I felt that way, but you gotta find a way to fit in, and I couldn't fit in some of the other ways in terms of my age, but that was, with the basketball, of course, it speaks for itself. But just knowing that I could always lighten the mood, if we had a bad game, we cracking jokes on the way, or just bumping the music,
right?
That just made me feel like I was a part of the team. Well, I was a part of the team, but it made me feel like even beyond being a part of the team, like that's when you start seeing me as like a young brother.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've never. Some people, even to this age, for those who don't know Hollis and I, he's a couple years older. But we're both grown men. We're both grown men, but Hollis still is referred to me as his little brother.
Right.
He'll send me a text, little bro. Yeah. And some people be offended by that. I'm a grown man, but I understand where it's coming from. I'm not like the little bro like he's sonning me.
Right.
But just in terms of he's always looked out for me.
Yeah.
Even back then, just never tried to clown me, crack jokes, whatever. And so I've always appreciated that.
Yeah, no, that's real, man. And I still remember one of your funniest lines, and I hope you don't mind me sharing, because you like.
I just laugh because I don't know where you're going, but I just know it's gonna be
funny. you always call so even now he calls me cheap. But we were so obviously we were a very popular team. We was one of the first teams to make it as far as we did since like I think 1972 or something like that. And in a basketball crazy city, absolute crazy basketball city. And so with that being said, we were on our semi-state trip, and this was when I felt he and I really, or at least I really started really noticing him. I mean, we always, thought he was funny, and we hung out and stuff. But so we were at a local Steak and Shake in Kokomo, and it was a Sunday, and I never have forgotten this. And so so we were gonna leave a tip. We were trying to figure out. Now we all like kind of I don't know, some hood kids, so we don't know anything about really leaving tips. Like, we haven't hardly, most of us hadn't really been to restaurants where you were leaving tips, right? You don't leave tips at McDonald's in the drive-thru, right? So we're at Kokomo Steak and Shake, we're getting food and we're supposed to leave a tip. And so Theo's comment was, well, man, tell her tip is don't work on Sundays. And I just thought that was the funniest thing and the most clever thing at that particular time. Now, keep in mind, I'm 17 years old because I graduated a little young. And so, it was just hilarious. And that was just the essence of Theo, man. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. You tell that semi-state story. I think that was what really, beyond the battles, and it is crazy. I remember some of the games, but to be honest, I don't really remember a lot of my high school games, even from my senior year, although I was
that dude. He was that
MVP
dude
of the team.
He's that dude that year. I ain't gonna kid y'all. He was that dude.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I was one of those dudes. Me and Jason actually, he was a dude.
You and Jay. Hey, shout out to Jay.
And, but it's crazy. What I remember most is just some of the stuff we used to do, especially on the road. When we were in semi-state, people who've ever traveled, when you're in high school, especially from a place like Michigan City, a smaller city,
right?
We go down to, I think it was probably Lafayette. We stand in those hotels. It was not even a hotel. It was more like a motel.
Right.
But it's the ones you enter your rooms from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like adult supervision that was like posted on every corner of the outside, making sure we wasn't sneaking out or sneaking nobody in. But we were still able to surprise and to sneak people in. You'd be surprised what you could do. And there was a real funny story. I won't even really tell the funny story, but maybe you remember. Well, I'm not sure if it was. Matter of fact, you wouldn't have known this story. This was after you left, but I won't tell that story anay.
All right.
This was the next year at semi-state. But
anyway, don't be snitching on We Call Next, Theo. Don't be snitching now.
No. I ain't MJ.
MJ was snitching, boy.
MJ was snitching.
He was snitching, boy. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Which is cool about this, but what's cool about our show, though, we're unapologetic that this is our show.
Right.
And we're going to have guests on in the future, and we're going to be highlighting those guests, but we're not trying to pretend that this is something that is not.
Yes.
Whereas, The Last Dance, we thought it was supposed to be about the Chicago Bulls, but it was like MJ,
Yeah, it was an MJ documentary.
And he was snitching. Ho Grant was like, yeah, let me see him in real life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
And y'all may think, hey, how'd y'all get off the subject? But this is why we want to really have this show, and we kind of touched on this in our promo. But the impetus for this show was Hollis and I reconnected, a handful of years back. Well, originally we reconnected after college, but we reconnected after that. After I moved out to Boston, moved back, and we would just talk on the phone. Let's say like the last 3 or 4 years. I say about the last 3 years maybe. He and I will talk, and we'll talk for like no less than an hour.
Right.
Sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours at a time. Especially maybe 2 years ago, it seemed like we were talking almost every other day.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, for as much as we talk, and it's never frivolous stuff. It's funny. He cracks jokes on me. I crack jokes. It's funny, but we talk about race. We talk about, of course, our faith, our family.
Yes.
And I was like, man, we need to put this on wax. We you know
Yes.
we got to put this out there,
Yes.
not just to put ourselves out there, but a lot of stuff we talk about is to the benefit of others in terms of how we transitioned out of basketball. So I just want to put that out there that when y'all see us get off tangent, this is what we do. We
Absolutely.
tell jokes about each other. We got love for each other.
Right.
We build each other up. But it all started on the basketball court. So Hollis, in terms of basketball, for those who don't know your story,
Yeah.
walk us through the Reader's Digest version of, let's just keep it high school for now, and then we'll go past high school. So your high school career, my sophomore year, well, your junior year, your senior year, what type of things was the team doing, and what type of things were you doing individually in terms of your accolades? What were you known for? How did you make your name?
Yeah, no, thanks for redirecting, though. And so, as I look at my junior year, it was a very tough year for me. I was on an amazing basketball team. Actually, I would argue my junior season, the talent that we had, not only were we ranked in the state at a very high level, but the talent-wise, we were better than actually my senior year. That included you, Theo, and with
Y'all had some gunners.
it was showtime. It was my boy Herman throwing alley oops to kill off the glass. CJ taking off. All my life I thought CJ was 6'9". CJ like 6'2.5", but he dunk on everybody like he was 6'9". Ali taking off from the free throw line. I had to go behind him in the layup line, and he taking off from the free throw line. And I'm like, golly, I'm trying to take off. And Coop, Cooper Boy, and Romine.
Show me your hands.
Coop, and so we had a lot of amazing talent on that team. Fred, that's my close, that's my family, Fred, and so we had so much talent on that team. It was difficult for me to get minutes at first. It was very difficult. And so, I was actually getting disillusioned. The coach didn't want to let me play JV because at that point I just wanted to play. So me and my boy James McCoy, we would just go to the YMCA and we would scrimmage and play. And people would be like, wait a minute, y'all on the Red Devils, aren't you? We like, yeah. Aren't y'all playing LaPorte tonight? Aren't y'all playing such and such tonight? We like, yeah, the team is, but we won't get much run. So because we had such a desire to improve and get better.
Yeah,
and it's that hunger, and it's hard to get better, getting splinters, riding the bench. And so we would actually do that. We literally would come to the game sweaty because we had just played hard at the YMCA. That's no joke.
So y'all can't sweat, didn't take no showers or nothing.
We came straight in with the Red Devil sweat, so yeah, and sure did.
Y'all heard that, right? Y'all heard that, America? Y'all heard that first.
No doubt. We did. I'm sorry, June, but we did, and so look.
There you go, snitching. He said he wasn't gonna be snitching. He just
got me in here snitching, dry snitching. So look, so the thing is. So after a while of doing that, I finally went to the head coach, because I was the scout guy on our team, and anybody that knows me knows I can score and always have been able to, and so I would be the scout guy, and they would have a tough time guarding me and on the team, and so I thought it was obvious that I could score and help the team, and I thought I was more athletic than maybe a couple of the guys that maybe are playing in my position, in particular one guy. And so I went to coach, but his response was, what can you do to help the team, and what do you think you could bring to the team? And my thoughts was, well, clearly he doesn't believe that I can score because I do it every day in practice. But my main calling card was defense. And I felt I was one of the best defenders in the state, even as a junior. I just didn't like people to score on me. And so with that being said, I basically challenged him. I said, listen, you give me a chance. Let me guard the main player the next game. And I would not only guard him better than anybody, but I will also, not only that, but I will completely shut them down the next game, whoever that is. And we were playing, I think it was South Bend, Washington, I think. And I went out there and I did exactly that. He put me in maybe sixth or seventh man, and he didn't take me out. I locked up the guy completely. He was 0 for Thursday, and I locked him up. And I actually got a little feature in a newspaper that highlighted my defensive effort. And from that point on, I became, the sixth man. Depending on the need it really rotated between myself, Coop and Ali. And then he started putting me in as sixth man. And even June was in that rotation because June actually would come, James McCoy, he would come in for Herman. So the Reader's Digest version, that's how I got on the court. And, unfortunately, we ran across an amazing Laporte Slicer, well-coached Laporte Slicer team. And so they just cut us out. But that was kind of what happened my junior year. And then obviously my senior year, I was able to play, be a major contributor. A lot of people ranked me as the second best defender in the state behind Walter McCarty that year. As you were right there with me. It's well documented what I was able to do on the defensive end. I felt like and I felt like I was a very unselfish player because I could score, but that wasn't necessarily my role because all roles went through Mr. Basketball Kill, which I don't doubt or question that because Kill was just really that good and that much better than everybody. Yeah. And so I had to sacrifice my game, but it helped us win. And so I just tried to do a little bit of everything. And I didn't, look at you as a threat or Jason. I just wanted to play, just wanted to start and wanted to win. So that was kind of what happened with my junior senior year. Now talk about yours.
For me, like I said, my whole thing was, how can I just be down? That was my approach going in. As a sophomore, and it's different now. I mean, you may have like cats who freshman, sophomore playing all the time, whereas back then, especially at Elson, and then even at Rogers at a certain period of time. So back when it was, thinking about Dale Ray and them teams, you just wasn't coming in as a freshman or a sophomore unless you were special,
right?
And so for us. And because I remember I played, matter of fact, I think I played literally 1 or 2 freshman games my freshman year. And then moved up to JV and started JV my whole freshman year. And we were like 18-2. We had a great record that year.
Okay. Were you playing with Smoke?
Were
you playing with Smoke?
No, it was me. I know the starters was me, Ben Bachman, I want to say, Danny Sherrard, Byron. I think Byron started, Byron Merriweather, and I think maybe, I can't remember who the 2 was.
You sure it wasn't Smoke?
Oh, Ryan Lipke.
Oh,
Ryan
okay.
Lipke.
Okay.
Yes, Smoke played a little. The only reason I know for a fact that he was playing because there was an incident, in the locker room, other than that, but.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was us, and then maybe later on in the season, Reggie and I'm not sure if Reggie and Jason moved up to JV or not. They may have towards the end, but then as sophomores, all 3 of us got moved up to varsity.
Jason was a killer too, though. Jason was little.
And Jason definitely had game. He had game. I remember when I first met Jason back in junior high. He was out at St. Paul, and we clicked right away, and just did our thing, And same with Reggie. We used to call ourselves a triple threat. Inside, outside, do it all, and so. And I just remember just starting off well, and then I broke my nose, which set me back. I had to wear that mask, and that's back before they knew they didn't have those clear masks. They had them big old thick masks, and you killed the peripheral vision. If someone passed the ball, if it was low, you couldn't see it, and if it was too high, you couldn't see it.
Man, that bandage
but
you
then
had
really started.
that was horrible looking. You had that big old school bandage back there.
It was an old school like I had a fractured face or something.
Yes.
Just broken nose.
Yeah.
So I couldn't wait to get rid of that mask, and so. Killed it. It was literally right before the pictures. We had to take the pictures. It was just like, I was like, Lord have mercy. But I just remember then starting to come around once I got worked through all that. Had a decent year. Our sophomore year, we made down a semi-state. Got a little clock during that semi-state game. I think it was against Brownsburg. And then after that, just kind of took off. Junior, senior year, just really started coming to my own in terms of just being myself. Wasn't trying to pattern my game after anyone. I wasn't chasing the accolades. I wasn't even chasing the fame. I was just trying to just do me.
Yeah.
And end up having, one of the better careers.
Yeah, you did.
Especially later on, as far as those later classes. Probably one of the better careers in a long time outside, of course, like Kiel and all them, and then those who came way before us. But in terms of after that, as far as getting clocked, starting sophomore year, not starting towards at the end, but then doing my thing my junior, senior year, and then end up with the accolades I end up receiving. Far as statewide and even some preseason All-American stuff, all in all, it was a good career. In terms of
you could
just
say
getting
Hall of
things
Fame
done.
career. You could say you right there, as far as a Hall of Fame career. But if I can say something real quick,
No doubt.
I loved when you started, and the reason why, selfishly, because then I could play the 2 or the 3. Because if you didn't start, I had to play the 3 or the 4, and I was way too small to be banging. So when you started, I could slide over into my natural position. So I just figured, I don't know if I ever told you that, but that was always.
Yeah, that's the thing that killed me in high school is once Kiel left. So when Kiel was around, then I could have been playing the 4.
Yeah.
After Kiel, I was playing the 5.
Right.
At 6'3", 6'4". And so I was undersized because even in our conference, there was at least four or five guys who was probably about 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", including the cat who 6'10" and 6'11". Now, surprising, the dudes who were 6'10" and 6'11", I ended up murking both of them.
Yeah.
It was the guys who was on that 6'8" range, including Lee Nalon.
Yeah.
He was more of a handful.
Yeah.
Him and this cat named Mike Flutner.
Had a nice NBA career.
Because I was always having to bang with them tall dudes, but that really helped my game even to this day. I mean, you saw a couple years back when I was down in Tennessee, just that post game.
Yep.
Were just on lock because I was always having to be the undersized dude in the post.
Which is funny that you say that, because when I played in college, because I had to play pretty much all 3 positions, I played 3 positions in high school, it actually made me a better, well-rounded guard. So whenever a guard was smaller than me and I would be cutting through, I would take a guard to the box and post up. And my post defense allowed me to guard people, up to about 6'7" in the post, because I was used to being undersized. So I do get that. It definitely helped me to be better, well-rounded player. Plus, my older brother used to cheat all the time, and he was always bigger than me. Shout out to my brother Etoile. He used to always beat me up when I was young on the court.
Big
so So that helped as well. But go ahead.
No, so let's do this, Hal. Let's since you brought up college.
Yeah.
Let's transition to college in terms of basketball, but also in terms of when we started lifestyle changes, at least for me, was in college. Just briefly, all we got to do is say about high school in Michigan City and being our squad, it was almost like, especially having the National Player of the Year that year, it was like the Beatles, you know, in terms of
People have no idea
getting free
unless you
food
experience it.
here,
Autograph
you know,
sessions
the
at
parties,
McDonald's on Michigan Boulevard. We were doing autograph sessions and stuff like that.
autograph
I went to
sessions.
elementary school signing autographs.
Exactly. You know, being in the dances, the parties. And so you can just imagine what all came along with that. And so,
Yes.
in terms of
For sure.
what it afforded us, you know, basketball afforded us some perks back then. Whether it was a hookup here or there, hookup here or there, or us hooking up with, you know, after the games, before the games, whatever it may be with the ladies. So just think of, and this is not to glorify that, but it's
Yeah.
important that we touch on that because it gives the juxtaposition of where we are now. And so
Absolutely.
just being out there, you know, just keep it real.
Yeah.
We were both some wild boys back then. You
Yeah,
know, we
sure.
both got some receipts. You know, that's the new thing they talking about. You got receipts. Cats can say like, well, what have you done? You know, show me your receipts.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that. That we both got some receipts.
both
You know,
have some, for sure.
in terms of being about that life.
Yes.
And the reason why it's important because now college for both of us put us on different trajectories. And
Yes.
so I'll let Hollis break down his college career because he actually had a great college career, especially in terms of compared to mine because of the injuries.
Yeah.
So just break down just some highlights in terms of what you accomplished on the college level.
Yeah, no, I mean, just it was a very interesting time for me coming out of our high school, not being highly recruited, and and I felt like I had sacrificed so much for our team could win, and I didn't feel like I was rewarded for my sacrifice based on my limited recruitment. So I ended up I went to a couple of different schools. I transferred a couple of times, was just looking for the right fit and looking for the right opportunity. And so I have to give a shout out to two people, Michael Mack, a former Elston Beyond legend. I don't even know what you want to call Michael Mack, but he's synonymous with the Red Devils, the whole Mack crew, Chris, Kenny, Scotty, everybody. But Michael, he went to a school, a little small school up in Michigan, and he just lit it up there, 1,000-point scorer. And if you guys are from our city, you know about his athletic exploits. And so his younger brother, who's a really good friend of mine and someone I looked up to and tried to emulate, was Scotty Mack. And I thought Scotty was like a little Jordan to me. I mean, I just wanted to get to Scotty's level, really. And he knows this. I've said this to him several times, and I'm real big on giving people their flowers while you can, if you will. So, saying all that, he had made a decision. I was looking at some other schools, and he had made a decision, some other D2 schools in Michigan, and he had made a decision to go to his brother's alma mater and go there. And he was like, man, this coach will let you play and let you play your game. And so for me, after traveling and being, going to a junior college in Wyoming and going to another school to play, and I had a great success in my junior college in Wyoming. Actually, that's why I first started getting Division I recruitment and interest. It just sounded nice to me, and it sounded right. I wanted to go because Scotty was a couple of years older than me, so kind of like I am with Theo. Scotty was a couple of years older than me at Elston, and I looked up to him though. And so to find out that he was going to go to that school where the coach had a proven record of letting people like us play our game. When I say like us, scorers and people that were creative.
Exactly.
I jumped on it, and so I was like, well, do you think he'll want me? And once I told him I was interested, he started recruiting me, and it just went from there. And so I ended up finishing, getting my undergrad at that particular school in Michigan, little private school. I actually ended up scoring over 1,000 points in a matter of a year and a half, which was one of the fastest that anybody had ever done it. I was the leading scorer. I was there for 3 years. I had 3 more years of eligibility, and I was the leading scorer there as a sophomore of the entire program, and I never looked back, never turned the keys over. And then I was also the defensive player of the year every single year as well. And it ended
Wow.
up culminating in me getting a lot of pro opportunities. I had a lot of pro offers. I had some opportunities overseas, and it's funny because when you come from urban neighborhoods, a lot of us, we talk about, man, I'll just play ball overseas. I'll go pro overseas if they want me. And but I'm gonna tell you, I had a level of ignorance, and ignorance meaning lacking of knowledge. I just didn't understand it. So when the overseas people, Turkey and places like that were recruiting me to come, I kind of didn't want to do it. I was kind of, just didn't sound as good. So I talked a big game, spoke a big game, as we used to say, about that opportunity. But when the opportunity presented itself, I had other things pulling at me. And one of the things I had pulling at me was the Lord. And so to Theo's point, when we talk about, our relationship with Christ and, what happened to us in college, and both of us, well, at that particular time, I was actually getting closer to God, and I had started going to church. I had really started seeking the Lord, and all of a sudden, basketball was slowly starting to not quite be, it wasn't my number one
Yeah.
thing in life anymore. And I was starting to realize that it was more to this life than just basketball. And I got kind of consumed, if you will, or obsessed with growing my relationship with Christ. So kind of like our promos, Theo, when we talk about, utilizing those same principles from basketball. Well, for me, I was a workaholic in basketball. And if you told me my left hand wasn't better than yours, I would get up the next morning, stay up all night. Next time you see me, my left hand's gonna be better than yours. Well, I was the same way when it came to Christ, except it was scriptures, except it was learning about the Bible, understanding, having to have a relationship with God. But I went at it at the same pace. And so because of that, I did, make I was able to, briefly, be involved with the CBA, and I was able to be in the USBL, and I did those things briefly. But by that point, God had my heart, and I was really more into the Lord. And so, I ended up having a Hall of Fame career in college, and was fortunate and blessed to make the Hall of Fame a few years back. And a lot of the people, think I was one of the better players to ever play at that small school. But, the biggest thing I got during my college experience was the experience in Christ. And that's what really changed me, and that's what really catapulted me into the point of where I am today.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. For me, my college career was almost like the opposite of yours, which is cool in a lot of ways because our high school careers were kind of opposite. So one thing I noticed with you and I, by the time we both gave our lives to Christ,
Yeah.
we both had lived through similar experiences in terms of highs and lows. The only difference was my highs were in high school, your lows were in high school, and then it was the opposite in college.
Yeah.
And for me, it had absolutely nothing to do with skill, nothing to do with talent, nothing to do with hard work. It just came down to the injuries.
Yeah.
And so, as you already know, I tore my ACL right after my senior year in high school that summer.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And this was back when they didn't know anything about fixing ACLs. You're talking about back in 1994. And so I was out for 14 months that first year. So I missed my whole, so I in the red shirt in my freshman year because I was out for 14 months. Came back, rehab, came back strong. And to be honest, my game took off. Because not being able to depend upon my athleticism right at first,
Yeah.
I was working on my handles, working on my jump shot, working on my post moves. So skill-wise, during college, I was cold-blooded as far as I was concerned, and cats in the city knew too. Balling not just at school, but balling at ministries like Heroes Camp and things of that nature.
Right.
Took my game to another level. But over time, my physical attributes just betrayed me.
Yeah.
Far as came back, played for a year, and then tore my other ACL at the end of the season. Came back rehabbed after like 12 months,
Right.
and after that, it was just like I was just burnt out.
Right.
You know, in terms of I had to make a decision how important it was to me to keep chasing this dream when physically it was just tearing my body down. I remember one time I was back home and I ran into a former basketball player who was now probably in his 40s. He was like a Michigan City legend. He was walking around with a cane at 40.
Wow.
And as soon as I saw that, it just clicked. I was like, that's not going to be me.
Absolutely.
You know, I got too much going for me in terms of the well-roundedness. And at that time, I'd already given my life to Christ my freshman year. So about the time my junior year came around, I was just like, you know what? There's more to life than basketball.
Yes.
I got more to offer than basketball. My grades were decent. Was involved in racial reconciliation. Was doing spoken word poetry at the time. Was still able to hoop when I wanted to. But for me, just chasing that hoop dream, it just wasn't worth it in terms of the physical toll it was taking on my body. And plus, at that time, before I gave my life to Christ, basketball was God for me.
Yes.
And it consumed my whole identity. So being injured for that
Yes.
14 months, it was like, who am I? If I'm not Theo, the basketball player, who am I? And that's when my spiritual father to this day, Courtney Richards, started talking to me like, hey, you think you came to play basketball and you think you're Theo, the basketball player, but let me tell you who you really are. And that's when he introduced me to Christ. And after that, God was just pressing upon my heart each year that I still hadn't relinquished basketball over to him. You know, and I was saying, yeah, it's all about you, God. But whenever I would get healthy again, it was all about hoop again. And so after a while, I had to make that decision to voluntarily walk away before the game was taken from me fully. I walked away, and it actually gave my body time to heal. And I think that's what stretched out my career, not necessarily my official career anymore. Now we're talking about my pickup game career.
Yeah.
Was the fact that I made that decision. So I'm able to play today because of that decision I made back then. And so I thought that was a cool parallel. And I think that's kind of what helped you and I connect so much, is the fact that after college, you were able to have the similar stories in college that I was able to have in high school. And we were able to really be happy for each other. Wasn't no player hating. We were both proud of each other. You know, you were proud of your little brother. I was proud of my big brother in terms of what we accomplished on the court.
Right.
But more importantly, when we came back home and we reconnected, and you found out that I was living for Christ, and I found out you were living for Christ.
Two kingdom
That's when
citizens.
it took off.
Sir.
That's when it took off. And so that's what we're going to talk about next episode, which is going to be entitled Past the Rock.
Right.
Hollis and I, we're going to break down how we reconnected. This has been back in 99, 2000, how we reconnected and back home, and how our relationship took off to a next level because that commonality we had in terms of our walks with Christ. But Hollis, I want you to wrap us up. Any parting words you got for the studio audience, for those who watching us on Facebook, for those who watching us on YouTube, any parting words you got for us, dear brother Hollis?
Yeah, no doubt, Theo. Thank you for sharing that, and I hope you all enjoyed our first episode. As you guys can see, we're relatively informal. We're just trying to share our lives with you guys and share, the goodness of God. And even though our show is called We Call Next, as you guys saw everything that God has done for us, it's you can have next as well. So
No doubt.
just definitely leave with that thought, and understand that God is no respecter of persons. So as we get into some of the deeper depths and of our walk with God, and the similarities and the parallels that Theo and I have on our next episode, I hope you will tune in again. Today was our backstory, our introduction, our hello, and the welcome, if you will. And but again, our next episode we'll talk a little bit more about the source of all of our successes, the source of all of our successes on the court, off the court, And again, we're just asking you to continue to tune in, and I hope you enjoyed this first episode of We Call Next. Thank you
No
very
doubt.
much.
So once again, this is Dr. Theo and my dear brother Hollis Edwards. This is We Call Next. Until next time, peace and love.
Peace and love.